Okay, welcome everyone. It's really nice to see you, Lucy and Julie. I'll introduce you in a second, but just to let people know that I'm Laura and I'm an associate for Contact. And I've been doing a bit of work around collecting some success stories from parent carer forums who are funded by the Department for Education Parent Carer Participation Grant. And it's really lovely to be able to have this conversation today with Lucy and Julie, because they've got a story to share about some work that they've been doing in Cheshire West and Chester as part of their Parent Care Forum. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over and let Lucy and Julie introduce themselves, because they will do it much more justice than I could ever do. So over to you. Lucy, do you want to go first?
Okay, so I'm Lucy Kennerley. I've got children with additional needs, and I first came to the Parent Care Forum in 2021. During that time, my little boy was 2 and on the pathway for an autism assessment. And I stumbled across the Parent Care Forum. I seen advertised a focus group for the early years. So I stumbled across that, like a deer in headlights. I didn't really know much about SEND. I mean, Jules asked me, have you heard of the local offer? I was like, no, I don't know what a local offer is. And then it went from there, really. Actually, that turned into the co-production of the early years roadmap. So Jules and I sat together with a blank piece of paper and mapped a roadmap out for early years, because what we found was that parents don't know what's out there. That was quite successful, and even the professionals use it a lot, because each professional sector don't know what the other has on offer. So we've had feedback from the professionals there for that. 3 years on, I'm vice chair and still here.
That sounds like a familiar journey in a parent carer forum. Thrown right in at the deep end and just get stuck in. That's amazing. Thanks, Lucy. Julie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Julie Duff and I'm the chair of the Parent Carer Forum. I have a young man who is a young man now. My son Josh has got Down syndrome and something called achondroplasia, which is the most common form of dwarfism. And he's just turned 18. So we've gone through we've been through this journey. And I joined the Parent Carer Forum back in 2019. And then not long after that, we went into COVID, and all the complications and additions that our families had to look after their kids during COVID. The Parent Carer Forum became a real anchor for a lot of our families, to a source of information for a lot of our families to come to. Fast forward to 2024. And, we've done a significant amount of work over the last 5 or 6 years to help improve and navigate that process for parents who are joining on the SEND journey, really, to where we are today. And we now have, we've got school reps, and we've got a parent management group, and we've got a whole host of parent volunteers who are really active to help the journey of our SEND families a lot easier, because we know how difficult it is.
Wow, that's amazing. Thanks so much for introducing yourselves and telling me a little bit more about the Parent Carer Forum. So it sounds like you've both been on a journey in itself, not only within the Parent Carer Forum, but as parent carers. But it'd be really interesting for people to know a little bit more maybe about the Parent Carer Forum and Cheshire West and Chester. So the kind of the demographic maybe of Cheshire West and Chester, and the kind of population. Also, when the Parent Carer Forum are formed and what type of model you use at the moment. So is it a community interest company? Is it a charity? Is it a constituted group? What type of approach have you taken?
I'll pick that one up, Luce, okay? So Cheshire West and Chester, we have about 350,000 people living in Cheshire West and Chester, and one of our biggest challenges is the rurality of the county. We're huge, We have big pockets of demographics. So we've got Ellesmere Port as a big pocket, Chester, Northwich and Winsford. But that for a parent carer forum is quite a challenge in itself to make sure that we're accessible for as many families as possible. Now, within that demographic, we have approximately, and I would say approximately, 3,800 children and young people who have been identified as having SEND. So that's about 1% of the kind of like population. In 2018, up until 2018, our PCF was ran out of our SENDIAS service or parent partnership service. And then in 2018, we became totally parent led and parent run. And it was at that point we did our first survey to understand what the needs of our family groups were. And then we've built on it from there, really. Now there was parent representation in that SENDIAS IAS group, and they transferred over to the new group. We are a constituted group. We're not a charity. We're not a CIC, and we are solely funded by the grant that we get from the Department for Education. So that's £17,500.
Well, that's really interesting. So the work that you've been doing then is funded solely by that £17,500 parent care participation grant. That's really interesting to hear. So no other contributions from like the local authority or health at this moment in time, literally just...
We make every penny count. We stretch that money as far as we possibly can. And the only reason that we can stretch that £17,500 is because we do have a genuine army of volunteers on the ground who are hosting events for us. You know, we're not having to buy in time or services. It is purely down to parent power, which means that we can get to as many parents as we possibly can. And we do reach an awful lot of parents. A great example is last night. Some of our parents ran an evening coffee event in their own time, so that they could reach working parents. And there was a new group that's kind of being set up over in Ellesmere Port, which is one of our larger demographic areas. But that's all solely parents volunteering and donating their time to make that happen.
Wow. So volunteers kind of make the activity happen for the forum. So the coffee mornings that you've just said, and the evenings as well. So you said coffee mornings and then some evening for working parents to be able to engage and hear from them.
We try and host, and we can go into more detail in a bit, but we host at a minimum of 3 in-person forums a year. So we've got one coming up on Wednesday, and we've got 65 parents booked on our session on Wednesday, and that's focusing on mental health. And the aim of those formal in-person forums that run between 10 and 2 o'clock is to get the professionals in a room meeting with the parents, and the parents have an opportunity to ask questions and know what services are out there. So that's one aspect of what we do. We then run a number of coffee events across the borough, in all of those conurbations that we talk about. And we also do a number of online sessions like this, so that we can record it. Working parents can ask questions ahead of the event, and then we pop it on our YouTube channel. So, it's not perfect. It is less than perfect because we can't reach everybody all of the time, but we try our best to try and reach as many of our parent carers as we can with the limited amount of money that we have. So yeah.
Amazing.
So like Julie mentioned, we do the 3 in-person forums, and they cost quite a bit of money. The reason being, we hire somewhere out to get everyone there, but we also buy our parents that turn up a lunch, and that's always well received by parents from their caring role. So we do our in-person forums, we do our recorded forums so people can attend. And what's really important about it, like Jules said, we can't always reach everyone. So what we do is get a message out there, get an email out there if you can't attend to any of our forums, but the topics are of interest to you and you have questions for the professionals, please email them in and we will get a response for you. So we try and do that as well. With our forums, we've got our coffee events. Now We host quite a lot of coffee events. Some of our coffee events are more sip and learn. So we will get providers that will come along to our coffee event. So we had one last week, and we had IAS come along for the parent carers, and IAS said general question, you know, what's going on, what's the feeling in the room, what do you want to learn about? And a lot of hands went up around the EHCP process, so they went into detail about that. Another sip and learn we've got is around wraparound care and after school clubs and activities. So we do that at each end of the borough as well, because we're quite a big borough, so we host one at one end and one at the other. There are sip and learns. Like Julie said, we've got some really dedicated parent volunteers that are hosting some more informal coffee events in their own time, as and when, and that's continuing to grow because we are getting more interest in volunteers wanting to volunteer for us. So what else do we do with our money? We provide parent training for our members. So whatever we hear on the ground from our school reps, what of interest is for them at that time. So we've had legal providers come out and talk to us about the SEN framework. We've had them talk to us about the EHCP process and tribunals, mediations, all that kind of stuff. We've got a provider coming out to provide an online workshop to parents and carers around autism in girls, masking and pathological demand avoidance, because that is coming quite strong through our community, that parents want to know more about that. And then we provide, and we do quite a lot. Then we
When you start reading it out.
I love it.
Yeah, we'll get it all out. So we provide a 6-week training course for our parent volunteers to attend, and that 6-week course is comprised of, so the first week we'll have someone from Contact and someone from the National Network Parent Care Forum to come and talk to our parent carers how we fit locally into the national context and talk to us about co-production, for example. And then on the second week we will have like commissioning come out, we will have IAS come out, we will have social services come out, we'll have the SEN team come out, and all that training is to help equip and empower our volunteers navigating the system, but also for when they want to join our steering group. So we use the money for that as well. And our steering group is well attended. So it's led by us, parent care volunteers, and we have leaders from, we have the designated clinical officer, we have the head of inclusion and education, we have the senior SEN leader, we have the specialist head teachers, we have the SENCOs from the mainstream settings, we have commissioning, we have the third sector.
Well, we have the third sector, that's right, yeah.
Yeah,
so we have
starting well. So it's well attended, and that is where what our parent care reps, our volunteers here on the ground, that's where we feed that into that steering group, and we say, this is what we're hearing on the ground, what can we do to help?
And what are the answers? Like holding them to account, really, aren't we? Saying, okay, so we're actioning this, you need to come back and give us some answers, and we can get back to the parents, really. That's the idea of it, isn't it, Luce?
Yeah. So yeah, and that can trigger working groups then, and we sit on over 40 work streams at the minute.
Wow.
It is a lot, yes. And a lot of that is ICB. Health is massive. We've got the SEN, we've got a seat at the SEN strategy board. I don't know.
We've got all sorts. We've got communicating, all the comms side of it. We've got supported internships. We sit on a whole vast array of different work streams. Wraparound care, transport,
neurodevelopment pathways.
I mean, what I'm hearing is just that the 17,500 actually, when you it's not a massive amount of money, is it, to be able to do all of this activity? But what I can hear from what you're saying is that actually it goes right through from your sip and learn, which I love that idea, you know, that people can come along and have a brew and also learn something and hear something that's meaningful to them, that is actually going to help. So that's the kind of engagement side, isn't it? It's drawing people in to be able to hear from them. But then it moves right the way through to that strategic influencing. And that's so vital in a parent carer forum, because that's exactly what they were set up to do. Is that, you know, the money is there to do exactly that. So it's a really good example to me of, you know, a forum working in a way which is kind of building that kind of infrastructure around a volunteer base, giving them some really good skills, but also kind of engaging and, you know, influencing at that strategic level as well. So
they get a lot of
wow,
bang for their buck, really, don't they? For the
they
17,500,
do.
they get a lot of bang for their buck. And I think our superheroes in all of this, obviously, are our parent volunteers, but it's our school reps. We've got how many school reps now, Luce? Over 20?
22. Yeah,
22 school reps in specialist and mainstream settings. We're always looking for more.
and post
And
16.
say that again, sorry.
And colleges as well.
Sorry, and colleges, you're not wrong. And they're the ones that are going out and are literally our eyes and ears on the ground and feeding back to us, and they've got their own little network themselves that they're sharing. You know, and that means that it's not reliant. The more volunteers you get in and the structure that you get in, it means that it takes it away from the steering group or the parent management group to have to do all of that themselves.
I feel like we've got another story coming in around how you've kind of supported that element of the forum to grow. I think people would be really interested in hearing more about that. But I'm conscious that there is
okay, we'll move on.
Yeah.
there is something else to be that we wanted to chat through today as well, which is the Parent Carer Forum survey that you've been doing, and it really kind of piqued my interest, definitely, because I know that a lot of forums really want to be able to collect data around experience, but sometimes struggle to find a way of doing that. So it would be so great if you could tell me a little bit more about the parent carer survey that you do, and how it came about, and the reasons for it.
And there's been lots of lessons learned along the way, to be fair, to get to the point that we're at now. So our first one was done in 2018 when we came out of IAS, or our SENDIAS service, and that's when our first survey was done, and it was say it was pretty old school. It was, you know, traditional paper kind of like surveys that were handed out to people that you then had to manually analyse, and you know, it was hard work, but it gave us our benchmark of the key themes that we knew that were out there. And the key themes, reassuringly or disappointingly, I don't know which way to look at it, probably disappointing, haven't changed to today. So it's things like, you know, poor communication, difficulty navigating the process. So that, and we do them biannually, and we do them biannually deliberately, because well, we're almost a year on from doing our last one, and we're only now getting some momentum about making sure that you know, the actions are being put in place. So our 2018 one was our starting point. We then did one in COVID to find out people's experiences in COVID. And the feedback that we got from the professionals when we gave them the results of that were, well, do you know what, you haven't got postcodes on here, and you haven't got this, that, and the other, and we can't analyse that data. So actually, we're just going to disregard it, you know, rather than actually taking the bare bones of it. So at that point, we said, right, we're not going to be in that position again. We're going to make sure that whatever data we collect is going to be usable, and we're going to spend some time making sure co-producing it. So taking it to that steering group that Lucy's talked about with all of those professionals, asking them what information do they need to know to improve their services. So, you know, postcode was important, because they wanted to be able to slice the data to say that, okay, what does speech and language services look like for rural Cheshire versus conurbation Cheshire, or what does speech and language services look like in specialist school versus mainstream school? And if we constructed the survey in a way that we could then analyze the data at the back end, it was going to be far more usable, and an incredible piece of management information that the council and the commission services and NHS could use. So that's what we did. We went out and we got a market researcher to help us construct, alongside the steering group, a survey monkey, so that we knew that then all the data at the back end of it could be downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet, and we could take out information that wasn't relevant, so not applicable. So if your child wasn't receiving social care, doesn't, you could take all of those responses out and make the data really usable. And we did that back in 2022. The first big computerized market research one, and coincidentally, literally the day that it closed, which was the 31st of January, we ran it. We did a soft launch over Christmas, and we found that parents could have 10-15 minutes when they were sat there watching, I don't know, a Christmas Call the Midwife, where they could input the details on their phone, because that was important, as well as having paper copies. So we could take the paper copies around to the special schools and ask the teachers to sit with them to complete them. And so we were trying again reach those parents who perhaps were in digital poverty, be able to access the survey as well. And then on 31st of January, Ofsted were arriving. We got our 2 weeks notice. So we really had accurate, up-to-date, current information, of which 570 parents took the time to respond and spend that 15 minutes to actually complete a survey. And we could manipulate the data in however way that we needed to be able to give the inspectors the information that they needed to. And that was fed right into that Ofsted review. And it gave us, as I say, a great benchmark then. So fast forward to now, we used the same structure for our 2024 survey, which we completed same period of time. But we added 3 questions, because parents said, well, actually, and professionals said, there's nothing on here about transition to adulthood. We're not capturing that data. We knew that there was some issues across the borough with transport, so let's add that in. And we know that short breaks and wraparound care for our families is non-existent. So we needed to be able to capture the data to actually make sure. And then we've got a comparison, what you said in 2022 versus what you say now. And the report that we put together does that comparison between the two to say, actually, there's more people, you'll be pleased to know, there's more people that know about the Live Well website now than they did back in 2022. Their experience isn't any better, but they know about it. So that's a tick. Your comms is starting to work, and that's a tick. And we've got that kind of data to kind of work with, really.
Right. Wow. I know that people are going to want me to ask the question about the market research company that you commissioned to do it. So just how did you find them? And
well, this is the power of the network. This is when you go out to your parents and you ask your parents who have got these skill set, and that's what we did. We had parents who have, there's 3,800 children in our borough that have special educational needs. Most of them have got, 2, maybe 3 members of their family who might be happy to contribute, whether or not that's aunties and uncles or parents or grandparents who have that skill set. And that's what we did. So it was actually a parent who had that expertise and knowledge, skill donored their time to us to be able to create that. Otherwise, that 17,500 quid was not going to stretch to
it would have been gone in one hit.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. That's
I think we actually had feedback from one of our parent volunteers who works in a different local authority as the head of Starting Well, I think, and she said, my goodness, our services would pay something like £30,000 for that.
For that kind of data, for that quality of data.
So yeah, that £17,500 would not have covered that.
No, not at all. So that is a really good example as well then, isn't it, of kind of how important, like you say, Julie, just then your network is, and tapping into that experience and the expertise that's out there. Yeah. It's so interesting to hear what you've said about the comparisons as well, and how it's helped. You know, the Ofsted inspection, you had it there ready to go. You know, you had that evidence base there to see exactly what the experiences of families have been, and now being able to, like I say, you know, analyze that data from 2022 up to, you know, up to now, and seeing some of the differences is essential, isn't it? Because that also the way you can tweak and change the questions as well. So because you've now got that structure in place of the survey, if there is something missing that you need to find out about, then you can, I suppose, add on.
Yeah, like we did with the questions this time. And now it's the push. You know, the next stage is, you know, what do we do with this? Got this fantastic piece of data that we know is credible, but how do we affect change with this statistical quantifiable data? We have all the anecdotal data from all the stuff that Lucy talked about, you know, the fact that we run the focus groups and we have the coffee events and we know what's happening on the ground, but to actually use that in a way that we can hold the council and the SEND team and everybody else to account, to make sure that our parents' voices are actually woven into the structure of Cheshire West and Chester Council. That's what we're pushing and we're working for at the moment. And there's a few things that have happened in the borough, which I'm happy to go through, that have helped us in that process. So that one of the first things is that one of our councillors proposed that Cheshire West and Chester became a SEND inclusive borough. And that's really put some focus on some of the councillors to look at SEND. And that came about for two reasons. One is our survey, and you know, we will be able to bang the drum about, you know, look at this quantifiable data. We also had a group of really active parents who had a specific issue with one area of the council, who wanted to get their voices heard too. So they too presented at the council event about when we became a SEND inclusive borough. So we've been sharing their data as well and capturing whatever they've got and feeding it in. And in fact, their information is represented in our survey too, to make sure that we're capturing everybody's voices. And it's, you know, it's important to hear from all aspects of the borough really. And by them becoming a SEND inclusive borough, it's now triggered, for want of a better phrase, a whole load of council meetings just to add to those 40 work streams that we sit on. But in a positive way. So we've learned so much, haven't we, Luce, about how councils work. So councils have something called a scrutiny process. Now I had to Google that. No idea what a scrutiny process was, but basically it is to look at how the council's spending their money. And so now we're a SEND inclusive borough. The council have set up a scrutiny process to look at how the money for SEND is being spent.
And that's as a direct result of your survey.
Wow. And the SEND inclusive borough, you know, and as I say, and these other parents who have you know, who are really passionate about making things better in the borough. So as a combination between us all, yeah, we've absolutely, and our data is now being woven in to that process as a mechanism for accountability and change.
So it's amazing at capturing evidence, getting leaders on board, including kind of other groups of parent carers that may not kind of be involved necessarily in the kind of specific forum activity. So it's kind of reaching out as well and hearing that, and it's all feeding into that that pot, isn't it, almost of information and what's happening for people,
and making sure parents' voices are heard. And that's that's ultimately what the forum's about, isn't it? It's making sure that, and holding a mirror, because that's the thing I think that we're all frustrated about, is as good as the data is, and as active as the Parent Carer Forum is in Cheshire West and Chester, all we can possibly hope to do is hold a mirror up to the counsellors, to the SEND team, to this, you know, to everybody who's involved in SEND, to say, this is how your services are being perceived, and this is the impact of your services on our parents. We can't make them be any better. We can try and influence, and we can really work closely with them to co-produce, but that's unfortunately not within our gift to actually make them be any better at their job, or create any more money, or you know, we can help them focus the money that they've got on the things that are really important, but we can't make them be any better. And I think we all feel a little bit frustrated about that at times, don't we, Luce?
Yeah.
So what are your plans for the survey then moving forward? You know, what your hopes and aspirations for it?
Well, we've done a couple of bits, haven't we?
Yeah, well, as a result of all of that, we had our first ever SEND summit, and that included over 270 people. There was parents, there was head teachers, there was health, the SENCOs, the counsellors, everybody to do with SEND in the borough was in that room, and that was led by the Director of Children's and Families, and we had some speakers on, and Jules presented our survey results there again. And I think the key thing that come about that was everyone in the room wanted the same thing. We want to communicate better. We're all working in our own individual systems of health, education, social care, but we're not really talking with each other. And I think that was like the aim of that was to hit the reset button on the co-production charter and get everybody together and working together, because without that, nothing else is going to happen. We need that at first. We all need to be on the same page. And I think that was my key takeaway from that SEND summit, as a positive start from the results of the survey.
Yeah.
But we also want those results written into the scrutiny SEND process so we can measure the data for next time. And those results are going to be written into the SEND action plan and the children's trust process. So then we can go back and see, has there been any change and what are the improvements? Because this is what parents said in 2024. What are they saying now in 2026? Has it been impactful? And that's what I want to say. I want to see some hope that it has.
And it changes outcomes.
Yeah.
But it improves outcomes for people, isn't it? It's like, yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to see that. And all the hard work.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're kind of coming to the end of our conversation, which I'm really sad about, because it's been so interesting chatting to you. But I just want to kind of ask, is there anything else that you'd kind of like to say about, you know, the survey, or anything else that Cheshire West and Chester Parent Carer Forum are doing? You know, any advice actually for other forums that may be starting out on pulling together a survey, and yeah, just anything that you'd like to say.
Well, feel free to use ours as a benchmark. You know, go to our website, take a look, and I'm sure we'll put a link in that. You know, as you know, there's no point reinventing the wheel. So, you know, have a look and see whether or not the kind of questions that we're asking are suitable for you guys as well. Think about the end result. I think that's where the advice that I would give. What kind of data do you want to come out at the end of it? Because you can only, and then work back from there and make sure that you've got all the buy-ins, really. Because once you know what you're looking for at the end result, you can structure it accordingly. And then ask your network. You know, with every one child with SEND, there's probably about 10 super parents and superpowers around them that help and support them. As I say, whether or not it's family, friends, Senkos or whomever else, ask your network for help and support, and so spread it out to reduce as much demand that there is on the people who are running that parent carer forum, and use the national network and your local network, because that information is out there really. So we're all here to, that's what I mean. Use Contact, use the national network, and we're all out here to help each other really, because we know how tricky it is, and we're all donating our time. So don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, it's not easy and it's a hard slog, and it has been harder the past couple of years. It feels like it's getting harder, but there is hope, and you can work together. And it's like that old saying, co-production is like a marriage, not a one-night stand. You need to work at it. Marriages are hard, there's ups and downs, and you need to work out it. And it's about people and relationships. You need to have the relationships with everybody to do with SEND, parents, carers, all stakeholders, the community. We've all got a responsibility to improve the outcomes in SEND, and we just all want the same outcomes, don't we?
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
about keeping those relationships, no matter how hard things get, and no matter how challenging. We've been in some challenging meetings and we've challenged some professionals, and it's been really, really awkward, but it's not personal. It just needs to be done, and
Well, that's
we
done
move
from
on.
a place of trust, isn't it? It's because we worked on those relationships for such a long period of time that we're now in a privileged position where we can call them out and say, whoa, hold on a second. But without that depth of relationship and trust, and the years and hours of co-production, it could be combative, and it isn't. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't say it any better. You've just summed it all up there in that, there is hope, and it comes from trusting relationships. And I love that quote. I love that kind of co-production quote about it being a marriage, not a one-night stand. I completely agree. There's also a Dutch proverb, which I always say to people, is that trust comes in like a tortoise, but leaves like a horse. And so making sure that trust is always there is an essential part to all of this. And so you're building trust and those relationships with your network of people. So your parent carers, your volunteers, your the people that you've got within schools, so your champions, within the school network as well. You have a steering group with leaders, that sits there, and they can hear exactly what parent carers have been saying, and then all bringing that all together within your survey, and making sure that runs through now every part of your SEND inclusive kind of authority. Is kind of, I hold my hands up to you, Cheshire West and Chester, Lucy and Julie and everyone that stands behind you, to say, well done, and there is hope. So thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you.
It's been so lovely talking to you, and I know that people will be rushing to your website. We'll put the links up, and I know that there's Lucy mentioned that there could be some blogs as well that people can have a look at and a read through. So we will put the links up alongside this recording. But yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.